Welcome to the StarCraft 2 Rock the Cabinet Arcade Contest, where we invite the modding community to create epic games for the chance to win over $25,000 in cash and prizes. With over 50 submitted games, we pared them down to the top 10. Then we asked you, the community, to help us select the final 5. Thousands of votes were cast and the finalists were revealed. Battlegrounds, Archers, Nexus Fortress, Dwarven Combat, and Siege. The task of finalizing the top 3 was left to our skilled panel of Blizzard judges, who played each game thoroughly using a common criteria to evaluate their experiences. Ultimately, the games that scored major points with the judges were easily accessible and a ton of fun. Now, let's find out who took top honors this year. The top 3 Rock the Cabinet finalists are Archers.
What's interesting about Archers is that the mechanic in order to attack a player was a unique twist to any PvP element I've ever seen.
I was really impressed with all the talents, for example, seemed to create meaningful choices, which I think is actually very difficult to pull off.
I think if I were to try to describe Archers to someone, I would try to say to them, you're definitely participating in a shooter with a very high skill ceiling.
Having to be aware of positioning, that trade-off of moving or shooting. I have a huge appreciation for everything that I saw.
Dwarven Combat.
So if I'm going to describe Dwarven Combat to someone who's never played it before, I'd say it's chaos. It's just absolute wacky chaos. Like, you get into the loading screen and it just goes crazy from the moment you pop in.
You pick a dwarf, there's 3 different abilities, and you are basically fighting other dwarves while trying to survive against all these environmental traps. It's chaos in a game, but in the best way imaginable, where you'll just basically spend the whole time laughing and shouting at the people you're playing with as you try to beat them to death with your hammer.
Nexus Fortress.
It brought me back to like playing Emphos back in Warcraft 3 days.
You have 2 teams and they're competing to see who can survive the longest, and you have to try to hold off waves and waves of monsters and also any kind of threats that the enemy team sends at you, like stun bombs and slow fields and things that make the monsters that come at you stronger.
What makes this gameplay unique and different is that you could actually interact with the other lanes. So it has that competitive element to it, because the ultimate goal is really to survive longer than your opponents.
Okay, the judges have weighed in. The winner of the 2015 Rock the Cabinet contest and $10,000 is Dwarven Combat.
I had fun playing all the games, but Dwarven Combat was just the most polished, and you don't need to have any predetermined skills to kind of come in and have a good time with it. It's a sort of game which would make a great party game.
Out of all the games, the one that I really wanted to play again after I got out of it was definitely that one. I finished playing it at home and I went, I gotta go to work tomorrow and I have to get the guys together and we gotta play this game.
The core gameplay was at a level that like outshined all the other games that we played. It did what it was trying to do really effectively.
I kept finding new things in the map to go explore. So for me, Dwarven Combat wasn't just about getting the high score. It was seeing how I could trick people into dying.
You had this amazing map that kind of had a narrative in itself by being unique and different, and it was just a lot of fun. You die, you're back in 3 seconds, you find someone else, you die. So it was really the most fun that we've had in a long time playing a Blizzard Arcade map.
The results are in. Dwarven Combat takes first place, followed by Nexus Fortress and Archers. The contest may be over, but the arcade is always open and free to play in StarCraft 2, where you can play this year's winners and thousands of other games designed by our awesome modding community. Catch the latest arcade news at blizzardarcade.com or follow us on Twitter at blizzardarcade. Thanks to everyone who took part in this year's contest. We'll see you all in the arcade.